Hello everyone, welcome to the When It Worked podcast. You're with the host Julian Leahy. Today I'm joined by the fantastic Brett Ingram. Welcome to the show, Brett.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, we don't mess around, we just get straight into it here. And we're going to play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Brett. And let me just get the board up. All right, you've got 3 lifelines, Brett. If you're not sure, very important to use those lifelines. You can have a 50-50 split. You can ask Julian, or you can have 30 seconds to Google it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, first question. Adapted from a children's book, Jim Carrey plays a businessman who inherits pets in the movie Mr. Popper's what? Penguins, tigers, lions, or bears?
That's penguins. I know that
Penguins.
Final answer.
Bit of a softball, but the first one should be a softball. Lately, the first one's been an absolute nightmare. Continuing on, adding an A to the end of what president's surname gives the name of a wildly popular 19th century dance? James K. Polk, Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, or Abraham Lincoln?
I'm going to have to go with James Polk on that one.
It's got to be. It's the only one that you can add an A to, and you get poker. Well done. Brett, doing very well. No lifelines used. Administrative Professionals Day, once called National Secretaries Day, is observed during what month? April, January, June, or October?
Geez.
This is something I've never heard of.
Yeah, I've heard of it actually, but I don't, and I've seen it come up on my calendar, but I cannot remember what month.
Do you have any staff, Brett?
I do.
They're going to be very upset that you.
Yeah, right. I know. I guess I'm not very good at recognizing that. I'm gonna, I'll do the 50-50 here.
Let's do it.
I have my guess.
50-50 split. If you were to guess, what would you guess?
I was thinking it's April. I know that's A again, but
let's do the split and see if that helps. We've got April and October left.
I'm gonna go with April.
Let's lock it in and hope that Brett hasn't wiped out. No, everything's fine. Brett got that one right.
All
Just
right.
use one lifeline. You do have to use them sometimes early on. Advertised as a decision engine, Bing is a website most similar in function to which of the following? Talk about a 25-year-old question. Google, Facebook, Twitter, or Amazon. Advertised as a decision engine, Bing is a website most similar in function to which of the following? Google, Facebook, Twitter, or Amazon?
Google.
Even my dad would get this one. Sorry, Dad. I've always using him as the butt of boomer jokes. Advertising its low-calorie content, Anheuser-Busch offers what brew dubbed the lightest beer in the world? Budweiser Select, Miller Lite, Coors Light, or Heineken Light? Interesting. Now this is probably something that's 20 years old, may not even be on the market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Heineken and Coors are not made by Anheuser-Busch as far as I know. So, and I think Miller Lite is their competitor. So, I'm going to have to go with Budweiser Select.
Yeah.
55.
That's the one I know definitely is a Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
That's correct. Well done. Doing very well. Aesop, the 6th century Greek author, is primarily known for writing what type of fiction? Fables, novels, poems, or short stories?
That is Fables.
Fables, got to be Fables. Let's lock it in. Regis, correct. Well done. Afghan Girl was captured as the photo of what magazine? National Geographic, Time, Life, or People? Do you know this picture?
I do, and and it's funny because if the choices weren't so difficult, I would know it because I knew it was a really popular magazine. Unfortunately, So what are my other lifelines are Ask You and Google.
Yes, correct.
All right. So I guess, what do I get to Google? I get 30 seconds.
You do.
All right. I guess I'll go with that.
Let's go.
So
Google Afghan girl.
Do I get to start the timer?
All right, started now. Doing the right thing by playing it safe and using the lifelines.
Looks like that one is National Geographic.
That's what I was going to go for. I couldn't work out if it was A or B. It could have been time.
Yeah.
National Geographic is correct. Well done. One lifeline left, but you're going very well. You're up at 8,000. Afrikaans and Zulu are just 2 of the 11 official languages used by what multilingual nation? South Africa, India, Switzerland, or Belgium?
South Africa.
South Africa is correct. Well done, Brett. Doing very well. Could go all the way. I've got a good feeling. After 29 years of calling him her spousal equivalent, what View co-host finally wed her longtime beau, Steve Janowitz, in 2011?
I think it's Joy Behar.
Okay, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sherry Shepherd, or Barbara Walters. Joy Behar is the one with the big hair, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Steve Janowitz is not a NFL quarterback. That was a different one.
Yeah, that was Hasselbeck.
Hasselbeck, that's right.
Yes.
All right, well done. You got that one correct.
So
you've been sneaking a little bit of The View during lunch, I think. After a much hyped 2011 wedding, which Kardashian filed for divorce just days after marrying NBA player Chris Humphries? Kim, Courtney, Khloe, or Kendall?
You know, I'm not a Kardashian guy, so.
Geez, you're going to be in trouble if you ask me for this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Khloe on that one because I know she dated Lamar Odom too, so maybe she's got a franchise on the NBA. I don't know.
Is Khloe the second most famous one?
I don't really know.
That's good. That's a good answer. That gives me hope.
To be quite frank, I'm not really sure.
Not big on the Kardashians. Try to avoid them, actually.
Yeah.
Khloe is incorrect. So it might be Kendall or Courtney. We're not sure. And really, does it matter? No, it doesn't. That's a good question to get wrong. That means that you've got some brain cells, I reckon. All right, let's have a round of applause for Brett Ingram. He did fantastically well there. And only come unstuck with a Kardashian question, which is a good thing to get unstuck. And tell us about optYOUmize podcast, Brett.
Sure. So basically, I started a podcast for entrepreneurs. That's sort of the idea is being a solopreneur myself. When I started out, there were a lot of challenges that I went through. There were a lot of times where when things are difficult and you're working through stuff, you find that sometimes you feel a little bit alone. You feel like you're struggling. It looks like everybody else is doing so well. And so I know how hard it is to work from the idea and the excitement of what it is that you want to accomplish to try to actually bring that into reality. And I never really had any mentors. I never really had anybody who sort of took me, or put their arm around my shoulder and said, don't worry, like this is how you do this. We all go through this. We all feel that. We all have the obstacles. And so when you're looking at the news or you're looking at, entrepreneurial, magazines or websites, all you're seeing is success story after success story. And it actually can make you feel like, what, am I the one entrepreneur out there that is struggling and not succeeding right away? And so as I developed my own business and I got to a level of, success with all of that, one of the things that occurred to me is I would really like to be able to be that mentor for other people. And I thought the best way to do it was through a podcast because I really enjoy talking with other people. I really enjoy mentoring. I really enjoy coaching and those kinds of things. And while it isn't my primary business, it's something that I get a lot of value out of, and I have a lot of stories and experiences myself. And because my beginnings were so typical and normal, I think I'm situated in a really good place to be able to help with that. Um, Everybody comes from a different background, but for me, when I started my business, I already had a family. I was raising a family. I had a mortgage. I had car payments. I was working full time. I was going to graduate school at night and on the weekends. And I started my business with that as the backdrop because I wanted to create a better life. And so if I can do it with that as the challenge, and I had no financial means either, it isn't like, oh, I'll tinker with this little business thing, and if it fails, I'll just go back to my other life. This is what I had. I needed to make it work. So I started the optYOUmize podcast for entrepreneurs to help them know that they're not alone and get advice and tips on what they need to be able to do to be successful, and B, to be able to do it in a way where they can enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and build a dream business and a dream life, not just one or the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And I liked the kind of realistic take on it. Like you said, sometimes we see all these people flexing their huge successes, but I really like hearing about, like, I just saw this post recently. This guy had launched a software product and he had like 3 subscribers after 6 months or something. And that's the reality of it. Is it takes a while before you tweak everything and get it right. So it's good to hear some of the stories. And what is your main business? So obviously you do the podcast as well to reach people, but what's the other side of things for you?
Sure. So basically, it was about 2007, I started making info products initially. And I loved the idea of digital marketing because for me, a digital business, I actually, in a former life, had a brick and mortar business. And I had 7 employees. We had an office. We used to build custom configured PCs, and we would ship them all over the country. We'd advertise in magazines. And the business model is very overhead heavy. There's a lot of money to spend on inventory. We needed office space. I had to pay for labor. The ad costs were $25,000 a month. So it's a business model that if it isn't successful, right, you have a lot of skin in the game with that, and it's really difficult to be able to make that go. I was fascinated by the idea of digital business when it really started to take off because I love the idea that you could do it essentially from your own house or bedroom or basement or apartment or whatever. You can do it essentially with no employees, no overhead. You don't need a big investment. And so that's why I was able to start it while I was doing all those other things. And I started as sort of a part-time thing. So initially I got into info products because I really enjoy, as I mentioned, sharing what I know. And so I thought, well, geez, as I'm learning this stuff about digital business, why not put together some guides, some ebooks, some courses for things that I know? And I started that way. And then I transitioned a little bit into done-for-you services because what I realized was people had trouble setting up a website. They had trouble doing a lot of things that needed to be done. So I said, if I do this for you, right, then, but what I didn't like about that is, again, I was getting back into the labor market where I needed a big staff in order to be able to fulfill everybody's thing. So I transitioned from that into software, and that's where I've been about the last 14 years or so. And so I build software apps that essentially, if I see that I have a need myself, and I say, here's something I'd like to automate, here's something I'd like to simplify, then what I do is I create the software app for that, and then I share it with other people, because if I have that problem, I know other people do too. And so that's basically what I've done. I've created a series of software apps, and some of them are still around. Some of them have been retired. Some of them I've sold off. So, but I enjoy the process of creating it and launching it. So I don't spend a lot of time on the optimization side and all of that. It's more on the inception, the idea, the creation, and then the launch. And so that's essentially what I've been doing for the last decade plus.
And what's your main software product that you've got at the moment? You want to tell us quickly what that is?
Yeah, sure. So right now I have, I have actually a new one coming out. It's sort of top secret right now. But that is going to be my flagship product, and it's going to be a product really geared for podcasters, but it's also going to be for anybody who owns a website. And what it's going to do essentially is help you get more automated traffic leads and sales, and generate more buzz from whatever it is that you're doing. Because I find that one of the biggest challenges people have is, how do I get things going? If I've got an idea or I start to create content, or I create a product, how do I market it? How do I sell it? And the traditional methods are all challenging. So even though it might not replace those methods, if it can help optimize that and help you get more out of what you're currently doing, that's essentially the idea. In terms of current products that are out there right now, that one, by the way, will be posted on my website once it's ready.
Which website? The Brett / Ingram one, or?
The optYOUmize.com website. Yeah. That's essentially my hub at this point. I'm going to be putting everything on there, links to everything else. Believe it or not, I don't even have my software listed on there right now. I geared it to the podcast and all that. I'm going to be adding all that stuff shortly. I have a product called VidsFX, which is a video creator, desktop video creator software. And we've just launched a couple of other things. I have a mobile app creator that's coming out, and things like that. So yeah, I have a variety of different things that I've done.
The podcast one is interesting because it is such a PITA, producing content and all of the stuff that goes with it. And anything that solves a problem in that respect is always going to be good for podcast hosts. Do you want to just give us some, I know it's secret, you've got to build that frothing excitement. Can you give us any kind of clue as to what kind of things it can do?
So basically what it will do for you is it will generate, it can generate viral traffic. So you can get people to share your, whatever you want, share your podcast, share your website, share your social profiles, whatever. It can generate leads for you. So it can add targeted leads to your autoresponder or email marketing tool.
But how, Brett?
What's that?
But how?
Yeah. Well, that's the secret sauce. But
okay.
What you do is you basically link up your site to it with one line of code. And once you've done that, you can create the campaigns and decide where they show on your site. And all these campaigns have different functions.
Yeah.
So it can be used for everything from your podcast to a members area, to a sales website, to a corporate website. You can use it at any of them. And if you're looking to generate more leads, you want to generate more sales, you want to generate more traffic, I'm going to be putting a pre-launch. In fact, I think it's already online. You can go to promos.com, PROHMOS.com, and find it there. I'm also going to be posting on optYOUmize.com, but there's going to be a pre-launch sign up. I think it's already live, where if you put in your email, you'll get all the updates about it. There's obviously no obligation or anything. It's just an information list. But if you want details as it gets closer, it's in beta, so it's pretty close to launch. I just haven't officially dusted it to roll it out.
Very interesting, Brett. And what's the time frame for this launch, would you say?
Ideally, I'd like to get it out in the next 30 to 90 days.
Awesome.
Officially.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have a chat to you after, because that's a very interesting topic. For Collabpalooza, we'll see if we can get Brett to present at Collabpalooza, because that's just up my alley, so to speak.
Awesome.
And Brett, I saw something that was interesting. You had as an idea for a conversation, how to launch how to sell your product before you've even launched it. Do you want to give us a crib notes version of that topic?
Sure. So one of the things that I've benefited from in my experience, and it all ties back together, right? So this is why I started the podcast, and this is why and how I feel I can help people. One of the struggles I always had was, how do you generate enough buzz or traffic? And if I wanted to create a product, how do I know it's going to sell? It's a scary idea. If you're trying to create a software product, you're going to invest money in this, especially if you don't have a budget, if you don't know if it's going to sell. And so what a lot of people do is they do old school marketing. We create a product. We create
build
the marketing.
it and they will come.
Yeah. and then we hope that we can sell it.
Mm.
I actually recommend you do the exact opposite. If you haven't spent any money on your product yet, I recommend you don't. If you haven't started any of that stuff, I recommend you don't. I recommend that the first thing you do and how you make sure that it's going to be a seller before you sell it, before you even create it, is you build your following first. Whatever tribe that you are going after, whatever niche you're going to serve, whatever people that you're going to solve their problems and benefit them, get to know them, get in the trenches with them, build a podcast, build a social media channel, build a LinkedIn account. It doesn't matter what platform, a YouTube channel. It doesn't have to grow by leaps and bounds right away. What you want to do is get people to resonate with your message. The most important thing is not the number of people that you have following you. It's the relationship. It's the fact that the people follow you, care about your message, and believe that you can actually help them and want what you have to offer. When you build a following like that and you provide value for them by the way of tips, advice, mentorship, whatever it is, whatever you can do to provide, then what you're going to do is create a pool of people that are pre-interested in anything that you have to create and to offer. And, you know, one great example I can give of this is my son is, he's going into his third year in high school, and he's gotten really into chess. So one of the things that he does is he watches this YouTube channel. I think the guy's name is Levi or Levi. He's a chess guy, and he's got like millions of followers on YouTube. And I have to admit, for a topic I'm not that interested in, he actually makes chess really interesting. The guy's fascinating to listen to.
Well, there
anyway,
is a lot of juicy drama in chess, and I've been watching a few chess channels, and I tell you what, it's very exciting, believe it or not.
And this guy's good. He's good at anyway, the point, what I'm getting at is he wrote a book, and he released a book on chess. And so the question I would ask is, even if he was a chess wizard, right? Grandmaster, and he wrote a book on chess, and he's a really good player, but he's not a grandmaster. So let's say that he releases a book. How many copies do you suppose he would sell? 10? 100? He has a YouTube channel with millions of followers. So when he pre-sold the book, created the book, wrote the book, talked about the book on his show, I don't even know his sales numbers, but what I do know is it went off the charts.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is he had a bunch of people that already loved his message, his products, his services. So when he went to sell it, he built the demand before he created the product. And so it seems counterintuitive, but because it doesn't cost you anything but time to build a following, you're not on a hamster wheel. Once you start spending money on your product, the pressure starts and you start to build up anxiety about how fast can I launch this? How much can I make? What else do I need to spend on? If you build the demand first, even if you only had 250 people, if you knew 100 of them were ready to, buy whatever product that you're going to create, it sure makes it a lot easier to want to create it.
Sure does, yes. And I've been telling people, get yourself a podcast and do the grind in that way. And, people say, podcasting doesn't work and all that sort of stuff. Just get out there and start creating that content, and you will be amazed. Obviously, you need to budget in terms of time because it's going to take you a few years. But it ends up being 2-3 years later, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I did do it. I didn't quit, and look what's happening now. And then, by the way, audience, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden they watch you every day or they hear you every day, and it's very different, isn't it? It's once you get that, you're really never going to have a problem again, and that's a really interesting way. And nobody will listen to this unless they try, and they will launch their product without doing what Brett is suggesting, and they build it, and they will come thing and realize that build it, and they will not come because you haven't tapped into what
it's very stressful, frustrating, and scary to have something that you've invested a lot in, and then you don't really have a way to market it. And the point I want to pick up on that you just said is so important. It's the fact that once you've built it in terms of your audience, that's something that travels with you. So that's not like buying a Facebook ad that works today and tomorrow it doesn't because a competitor with a bigger budget outbid you. That is people that want to be connected to you. and that you want to be connected to them. The critical part about building the following is do it in a genuine way without the expectation up front of what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Do it out of the joy of doing it, and that will resonate the right people to you. Be who you are. Don't pretend to be somebody that you're not. And you will love every day. I love podcasting. I love being interviewed. Because I'm just me. I'm not making stuff up. I can be who I am. I'm not afraid or ashamed of it. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of good things, and I'll talk about all of it because I think it's helpful, because I love to hear that when other people share.
Yeah. It's great stuff, and it's what people want to hear, the authenticity. And there's so many of these kind of fake it till you make it, or they're like, oh, let's talk about, this is the insurance podcast, because they want to sell insurance, and it's like, it's the ones that kind of go around the back a little bit and do something a little bit different, which is still inadvertently attracting their target audience, but in a way that is not like, oh, here we go, I'm gonna listen to an hour's pitch on insurance, And you said podcasting's fun and you enjoy it, but be honest, Brett, sometimes you go, oh God, I've got a booking.
I actually don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Except when it conflicts with my schedule.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I got my kid in finals right now. My other son's home from college. He's got an internship. So between the musical chairs and the driving around, and all, I mean, that's a little nuts. But but no, I got to be honest. I mean, I really do look forward to creating the content. I look forward to talking to people. Maybe it's because part of me, and if you don't mind, I'll tell another short story here. So, one of the things about me that's sort of interesting is as social as I can be, and as open and affable as I can be, I'm actually fairly solitary in my normal life. And so this is my outlet. Being able to talk to other people and do that, so that's one of the things I love about it. I'm not immersed with people all day, every day. So when I get an opportunity to share and talk, and I love it. I was at a conference years ago, because in the industry that I'm in doing the software, the main way that we promote stuff is through affiliates. So we have an affiliate syndicate. We work on these various platforms, and every couple of times a year, we do an event somewhere. Orlando or Dubai or Ireland or whatever, Las Vegas, and everybody goes and they get together, and it's a couple times a year. It's the only time we ever see each other face to face. And we're not business partners, but we're affiliates. We promote for each other. We recommend each other's products. We do all that kind of stuff. And so the thing of it is, I was at a conference years ago, and I was talking to a guy, and we had spent sort of the weekend together just chatting. And he said to me, we were at lunch on the third day or something, and he said, you have a lot of really good insights and ideas. He goes, but nobody knows who you are or what you know, because you're always, hidden, and except when you come to an event like this. He goes, you got to step into the light. And that, I never forgot that when he said that to me. And so I've always sort of had that in the back of my mind. And I just never had the bandwidth to be able to take this on too. And so once I finally made the decision to start the podcast last August, I said, I'm going all in on this. I'm not trying it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I committed, I did it, and I've never looked back. And I do 5 episodes a week. So, I mean, I've done 5 episodes a week, holidays, whatever, every week since last August. I haven't missed an episode.
I like the high volume approach. I think that's a key thing that a lot of people miss. They get really stuck on perfection, and the quality and speed of the output is a huge factor. Did you have some ways that allowed you to do a high volume without killing yourself?
Yeah. So a couple of things. First off, again, to your point, exactly. Look, you're not going to be good when you start. Whatever content you're making, it's not going to be good. That's okay. Embrace that. That's part of the journey. My first info products, I would be embarrassed to show you what they are now.
Yeah.
A 7-page ebook with terrible graphics. My original podcast episodes might have been like 8 minutes. But the way that I did it, in a way, I said to myself, if I focus too much on perfection, I will never start. And I recognized that even if I started, I wouldn't be able to continue because I was focused so much on perfection, it would be impossible to get the volume to a level. You evolve as a human being and as someone who's learning a skill. With every skill in your life, the more you do it. When you ride a bike and you get on the bike and you go 2 steps or 2 inches and fall down and skin your knee, that hurts. And it's embarrassing. But you get up, you ride, and the next time you make it 4 inches and you fall and you skin your other knee. And then you make it a foot and then 2 feet. And that's exactly how we learn. And if we only wait until we're perfect at riding the bike, we're never going to start. And so I wasn't good at it at first. I feel like I'm better. Do I feel like I'm perfect? No. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still getting better. And that's my goal, is to focus on improvement, not perfection. And so that's to that point. To the point of how I did it without killing myself is I asked myself, what format resonates with me? What's a format of a podcast that I could do that I think showcases what I want to showcase, connects with my audience and gives them real value, and is sustainable, right? Sustainable.
Yeah.
Because I could do a 2-hour episode, but I can't do a 2-hour episode 5 days a week. And so what I said is, I actually prefer bite-sized podcasts. I prefer it myself. I don't listen to a 90-minute podcast very often. It's too much time. I got to break it up over 6 different things. And I just can't focus for that long. I get too many things to do. 20 minutes, you got me. I'll listen to you while I'm driving my kid to school. I'll listen on the way home when I'm driving into practice, like whatever I'm doing. And so I said, if I make bite-sized things where I can give people tips about business and about the personal development side of being an entrepreneur, because I really think those are linked, right? Our businesses can only grow to the level that we grow and develop as entrepreneurs. So if we are stagnant, our businesses are limited. And so I don't think those things are separate topics. I think they're connected. Entrepreneurship, personal development, or personal growth, whatever you want to call it, go hand in hand. So it's a crossover podcast that covers both of those kinds of things, but it's personal development for entrepreneurs. And so the idea of it is that I thought if I did it in bite-sized segments, and the first, up until very recently, it was all my content. I did no interviews, and that was by design. I wanted to put out a lot of content of my own because I didn't just want to be interviewing other people and sharing their content. I wanted to do my own as well. Once I built it to a certain point, I said, okay, people are bored of me. People are going to get tired of me. It's time to bring in some other people. Let's now get some interviews, and let's get a hybrid approach where I've got some of my content, some interviews every week. And that way everybody gets a good mix. They get a mix of perspectives. They get a mix of topics, mix of voices, and the maximum benefit. And I've always had in the back of my mind, what will benefit people that would, invest their time in me the most, because ultimately that's what it's all about. I have to serve you to earn the time that you're going to spend to listen to my podcast. So whatever value I can provide, that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. And how do you find guests? Mostly on Podmatch, or do you have some other different ways, an agency that you use or something?
Right now, I use Podmatch. I have a booking tab on my site. Anybody that's interested in being a guest, you're welcome to apply. I was fortunate enough to be able to build my podcast to a pretty decent level. We just broke 1 million downloads. So I'm just over 9 months in. So because of that, I think, it's been probably easier for me to get guests, which is sort of another thing I had in the back of my mind when I was starting out. I knew that if I started out trying to just get guests, people would be like, well, who are you? What have you done? It would be a little bit harder. I didn't want to have to, claw, scratch, and bite to try to get guests or whatever. So that was the other reason. And so right now I'm using Podmatch, and I'm also you can book through my website.
Excellent. Yeah. So there's some great info there. Firstly, about getting yourself out there and some of the ways you can do it so that you don't burn out. Make it something that you're interested in. Keep it bite-sized, and go for volume, and that's really my philosophy is. That's great. Thanks very much, Brett Ingram, for coming on and having a chat to us.
Absolutely.
Wonderful, and keep an eye out for what Brett's doing. I reckon we're going to get Brett at Collabpalooza, and we can find out all about this secret launch that's coming up, which is going to help get a bit of virality to some of your content, which is a huge thing. And there are some sneaky little ways that you can just get some things happening in the background that take a lot of the jobs off your plate. Would you say that's a fair analysis, Brett?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in optimizing the stuff that we've got. If you have something that's working and you can get 10% more results out of it through automation and technology, why wouldn't you do it?
Absolutely. People are just scared because they don't know how, but that's what we're going to find all of that out at Collabpalooza. So make sure you get yourself a ticket. And once again, thanks very much, Brett Ingram, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap things up.